on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very special video. We'll be doing an official review video on the URUS. This has become highly requested from you guys. So with that being said, let's dive right into it. All right, everyone. Welcome to the official review video of my Lamborghini URUS. It's a 2021. Bought this car back in September of 2024, and currently right now it's January of 2026 that I'm filming this video. So we've been having this car now for a little over a year and a half now, and to be honest, like, long story short, this is probably one of my favorite cars that I've ever purchased. I've had some, trucks, I've had some other SUVs, I've had a couple Mustangs now. I have the Corvette C8 that I still have now, as well, alongside of this particular car. I've driven, the Huracans and stuff like that. And by far, this is just one of my favorite vehicles I've ever driven, ridden in, purchased, etc. And not just because it's a Lamborghini. I mean, that's cool and all, but when you think about the type of car I bought a SUV Lamborghini. I bought a gray SUV Lamborghini, and honestly, I haven't really done anything to it yet to make it go like crazy loud and just like well seen for everyone. It's it's like my sleeper car right here. That's what I like to call it. Okay, one, it's fast, and we'll go into like performance specs and like all of that a little bit later on in the video and everything. It's very fast, so you can have your fun with it, and then you can immediately go to just quiet, chill driving like we're doing right now because we're filming this video. And you can swap it into Corsa, and you can go in track mode, and you can rip it hard, and it feels like it drives like a two-door coupe when you decide to put in the Corsa mode and everything like that. So you have that balance of both worlds between quiet luxury SUV, relaxing ride, and then you also have that within a flip of a switch, it changes into a completely different vehicle that you can rip hard around and have like a lot of fun in without having to go to a whole nother vehicle. So just the value for money is absolutely insane with this car. And that's also where it goes into like, well, hey Nick, why did you get an SUV? That's also the other question I get. And if you would have asked 18-year-old me when I was first thinking about getting into these types of cars and stuff like that, if you would have asked me like, hey, your first Lamborghini, would it be like a SUV, or would it be like a two-door coupe, like a Huracan? Or at the time that I started looking at Lamborghinis and stuff, that's when the Huracans were just coming out and they looked amazing. I remember seeing Damien with Daily Driven Exotics when he purchased his red two-door Huracan. It's the 580-2. I remember him purchasing it just right after wrecking his, I think it's the 458 he had, Italia. And ever since then, like, that's what I wanted. I wanted a Huracan. It just looked the most fun, most reliable vehicle, like all of those specs right there. So at the time I was thinking, okay, hey, my first Lamborghini is definitely going to be a coupe. And if you'd have told me that, hey, reality is your first Lamborghini is actually going to be an URUS, I would be shocked if you told me that back then. And things changed. I've had, like I said, a couple Mustangs. I've had the C8 Vet and stuff, and all phenomenal cars and stuff. But honestly, I just got older. I got tired of getting in and out of these low-ass cars. And then also I have two dogs and everything, and I'm starting a family and stuff. I got an amazing girlfriend and everything like that. So give it a couple of years, I'm gonna need the extra room and everything like that. So that's where the URUS just really shined to me of why I should get that particular car over maybe some of these two-door coupes or another sports car like that. Now I do have plans of trading in the C8. I do plan on trading that in within the next year to 2 years, and I do want to purchase an Aventador to where I'll have a daily as the URUS, and then I'll have my fun weekend car, which is going to be the Aventador. So I do have plans still, and like I said, I do still have the Vet and the C8 and everything, so I can still have fun when I'm riding around and just want to have a little race car fun type of vibes right there. So just kind of highlighting, that's kind of why I kind of went into buying the car and stuff. And like I said, there's a lot to talk about. We can talk about the interior, we can talk about the outside, we can talk about the performance specs and all of that, and we will get into that. But just before I kind of go into all of that right there, I really just want to kind of give you all a little bit of backstory of actually like buying this particular vehicle. So again, I purchased it in 2019. Like I said, I think it was 2024, September 2024 of when I bought it and everything. And honestly, I kind of just did it on a whim. I had a certain goal of getting to over, I think it was like 600K invested. So once I invested over $600,000, I gave myself permission to, okay, hey, I can go throw $60,000 down on a new car, or you know, a new Rolex or whatever. And after going to Dallas and talking with one of my friends, Chase Chappell, you know, literally like that weekend, went talk with him. We hung out for the weekend and everything like that. And after that, I was just like fully convinced, like, okay, I'm gonna go buy my car. So I went ahead, I applied for the financing and stuff. And about a year prior, so back in like December of 23, I actually did apply to actually purchase a red Huracan Evo. And long story short, just I didn't meet the qualification for my past financing history. At the time, I had financed most like I said, a Mustang. I financed a C8 before I tried applying for the red Evo. I financed the Mustang, and because I was going from a $50,000 loan to like a 200K loan, I did not have luck at all in the finance office. You know, they were quoting me shit like 20% APR, which is just like absolutely atrocious, like horrible. So I ended up getting the C8 and then pushing off getting the some type of Lamborghini supercar for another couple months. And then that's why I said when we got the URUS and stuff. So found this car when I started looking and everything. Found this car out in, it was at O'Gara in San Diego, which O'Gara is actually one of the very few dealerships that are actually qualified to work on Bugattis, which is also really cool. So I got this car off of Bugatti or O'Gara in San Diego and everything. I was just scrolling on Car Gurus and stuff, and we'll put some screenshots up for you guys. I found this one, and there's like 2 or 3 other URUSs I was looking at, but this one specifically really caught my attention. I looked at some blue ones, I looked at some green ones, I looked at a few different color ones, some matte ones and everything like that. But to be honest, I really liked this gray. It was, like I said, it was calm, it was sleek. It blended in with a lot of other vehicles. And like I said, I didn't want something that was going to just stand out and scream Lamborghini when it came down the road. I actually wanted it to be more subtle and more for like, oh, if you know what an URUS is, you know what an URUS is. But if you don't, then most people just pass by and think it's just another SUV, which is really cool. So from there, we found this one particular one. This one was right at around $220,000, and applied for financing and stuff like that for it. I honestly wasn't even expecting to get approved. I thought they were going to come back with me with some atrocious number of like 10% or 20% again for the financing. I was like, fuck that. But luckily it actually came in right at 9%, which is still not great. But you know, once you start getting into a lot of these higher end cars, you'll notice that 7 to 9% is pretty average for your APR when you're financing these vehicles and stuff like that. And so $221,000, we put down $60,000, so we financed right at $180,000, and like I think it comes out to like $186,000 or something like that. That's actually like financed when you factor in like all the other like tax, title, license and stuff that goes through with it. So financed that, pretty much sent off the paperwork and stuff like that, got the car, shipped to me. I think it took about a week to get actually delivered to my house and stuff. So I remember completing everything like I think a Monday or a Tuesday, and then I think it came in the following weekend of when it actually arrived at my house and stuff. So but yeah, got shipped to me. That was pretty cool. Really cool guy that actually drove it to a parking lot just alongside of my house and everything. We picked up the car at night with some friends and stuff, and honestly just parked it and put it away in the garage. And that was pretty much the whole story of actually buying the car itself. Now, After that, a year and a half later, you know, what's my opinion on it? What's my review on it and everything? So, and ultimately, should you even buy one of these before? Because I think everyone should own one of these. These are phenomenal cars itself. I know a lot of people instantly, you know, who will give shit on people who have them and just basically just be like, hey, why don't you just get the RSQ8? Which, if you don't know, Lamborghini or Audi actually bought Lamborghini a while back, and the RSQ8 is literally just there was the first URUS that came out, and then after Audi perfected the RSQ8, they went ahead and you know, made the URUS, which the URUS is literally just an RSQ8 body and stuff, and pretty much foundation. And then all they did with the URUS was beef up the performance a little bit, you know, tuned it a little bit more. You know, put the big ceramic brakes that we have on this car, which is really awesome. Those are phenomenal to use all the time as well. And then, you know, threw a Lamborghini logo on it and priced it literally double, because an RSQ8 you can pick up for about 100 grand, whereas a URUS you're going to look at about 200 grand. Honestly, I don't care though. I don't mind that I overpaid tremendously, because to be fair, like, I still love the look of the URUS way more of the RSQ8. The RSQ8 is just a little softer to me, whereas the URUS is just a little bit more edgy, and that's what I really liked about the URUS, just for an appearance right there. So if you can afford the URUS, go for it. If you can't quite afford the URUS yet and you want nearly identical performance in another car, get the RSQ8. And trust me, I've never driven one, but I would imagine it's pretty fucking close in terms of how it feels and drives and all that good stuff. So let's kind of go more into the URUS now. Let's talk a little bit more about it. So as far as mileage, I bought this car with 16,000 miles, and currently we have 24,000 miles on this car. I drive this every day. This is my daily driver. My girlfriend, her family lives about 2 hours away, so about once to twice a month, I take a road trip for about 2 hours there, 2 hours back, so about 4 hours total. I do that once to twice a month. I fly maybe once or twice a month. I leave this car at the airport in the economy parking and stuff when I travel and stuff. It's my daily. I don't baby this car at all, and that's because, like, I bought this car to drive. I bought this car to have fun with it. Sure, maybe I'll lose a little value in it, but that's not like, I'm not really a collector here trying to buy cars and swap them and stuff. I'm a person that loves cars, and I bought this car to enjoy and have fun with. So that way, the day I do have to get rid of it, then cool. Like, I drove the fuck out of it and I had fun with it, and I don't regret buying that at all. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing, as far as just like, we'll start off with like interior first, then go to exterior. The interior is amazing. I know, I mean, at least for me, like, I never saw any bad reviews on the interior at all. But about a couple of weeks ago, when we were filming a video, they had someone that came to us and basically talked about how the interior was quote unquote terrible in this thing. And I honestly couldn't like agree with that at all. I thought the interior is phenomenal in this car. Like I said, we're at 24,000 miles. There's no weird like creaks or anything like that while driving. I mean, for the most part, it's been silent, and you know, probably most of you guys also hear that as we're driving down the road right now, because you know, we just went over a lot of bumpy, and we live in Louisiana, so it's a lot more bumps and all that good shit right there. So you know, typically car will be a little louder when driving through. So overall, interior's been phenomenal. Everything you know, feels good, like when you're kind of just reaching around and like touching the car and stuff on the inside. I think the only like complaint I have on the interior is if you compare it to the RSQ8, the RSQ8 has more moody lighting inside. I know like the Mercedes, I think it's the GLE, for example, they have a lot, very like ton of moody lighting within it. There's really no lighting in this at all for like accent lighting. So it's not really not necessarily like a bad thing where it's like the seats are uncomfortable or something like that. It's just like, it's a little bonus add-on that I really feel that could have been added just for that little extra, you know, luxuriness to it. And then the other thing, I do have a 2021, and it could just be the fact of like the fact that I have a 2021, but the Apple CarPlay does not work over Bluetooth. You know, compared to like, I had cars from like 2015, 2016 that were Fords and Chevys, And like those cars right there would work perfectly fine with Apple CarPlay over Bluetooth. So like, again, just very, very small little, like, not even complaints or anything, just more like, I wish it had that, but like I can deal with it. So not really me like talking bad about the car or anything like that. As far as blind spots, as far as, you know, visibility, it's an SUV and you can see everything perfectly fine while looking through this vehicle. There's no blind spots at all. I never feel like I have to kind of guess whether or not a car is right there. Whereas like when I've driven a Urcon before, the Urcon was horrible with the blind spots because there's no blind spot monitors. This car has the blind spot monitors, which is phenomenal. And they had that huge little like blind spot right here in the Urcon. So like you really just have to kind of guess and hope that there wasn't a car there when you kind of take off down the road. So as far as visibility is phenomenal. As far as like just the overall size, like you obviously, you're driving an SUV, so it doesn't feel like it's small and light and like, you know, just something little car you can maneuver around, but it also doesn't feel big and bulky and stuff. And especially too, the cool thing about this is that when you go from Strada mode to Corsa mode, for example, so from chill, comfortable riding to race car mode, when you put it in race car mode, it stiffens up the suspension and stuff. Almost all the body roll is taken out of the car and everything, and it makes the car feel substantially smaller than it actually is. So that's another really cool, you know, just like, I guess, the difference between cars you get. And again, you can have that fun race car when you want, but you can also have that fast sports car when you want as well. So that's pretty solid right there. Again, that's another part I love about this car. And then I would say just overall from like the info like screen, the main little dash right here in the front, like solid. I can't say any complaints about that at all. It gives you everything you want. And again, I also like how it switches over between the different modes you have. As far as comfortability for like a long drive, again, the longest I've driven it so far now is like maybe a 2.5, 3 hour trip, like one way there. And zero issues with like comfort. Like overall, seats are solid. Really cool thing about the seats is that it also has the massage sheets in this, so I will use massage sheets pretty often. You know, if I have a ride that's 5-10 minutes even, I'll put them on just for like, hey, I did a hard back day the day before. I can actually kind of, you know, tweak that around, and that's really nice. So as far as space, blind spots, how well the interior is structured and everything like that, all of that, like A+ in my book. Again, realistically, the only things that I would technically say that's bad about it, and more just things that could be missing from this relatively or instead of like bad talk about it, is literally just the fact that you know, it doesn't have the more accent lighting, and it doesn't have the Bluetooth CarPlay. That's the only two things that I will say that were annoyances for me. And I want to say with the newer URUSs, those URUSs do have the Bluetooth CarPlay. I think it's purely just the fact that I have a 2021. Now, switching over from inside to outside and everything, outside of this car looks phenomenal. I can't say anything bad about the outside. We have, like I said, the gray paint, and then you have these huge brakes on this car, ceramic brakes and everything, which are also really nice. You can definitely tell, like, when you go to stop, like, you stop. You know, there's no questioning at all about it. I've done some, you know, had some fun before with this where we'll go up to like 100 and then just slam on the brakes. And I mean, you just, boom, like almost immediately down to 0. So you can pull some crazy G's in this car of how well the brakes work. Again, huge ceramic brake rotors and stuff. I also love the fact that it has the Lamborghini green on the brake calipers and stuff. That also looks phenomenal. That's like one of the things that, like, hey, it keeps this car very subtle, but there's still a little bit of something on this that makes it stand out, and like, hey, that's not just your average car. And then I want to say, I could be wrong here, so don't quote me on this, but I want to say this is the largest brake calipers and brake rotors on any production car on the road, or SUV or truck and stuff like that. Any production vehicle, these are one of the largest brake calipers and ceramic rotors. And probably also one of the most expensive because I've looked at some replacements and each rotor is like $10,000 per rotor for the ceramic rotors and stuff. So pretty crazy on that part. Next, we're wrapped with some giant P0 tires. I had to get some new ones in the rear replaced recently because I got a nail in a tire, and those tires are a nice $1,200 per tire. So, you know, you guys can do the math from there of how expensive it is to replace a tire on this particular vehicle. But yeah, so tires, wheels look really good on this car. I did get the the PPF on the hood, the front end of the car, the the mirror caps, and then the rear of the car. Because like I said, I bring my dogs in this a lot. So what I'll do is I'll put the PPF on it just so that way when they jump into the vehicle, their nails don't like scratch the rear of the vehicle and stuff. And then from there, I mean, like I said, the outside, the gray looks really good. It's very sleek and modern, all that stuff. As far as like the performance for it, kind of getting more into like the mechanical aspects, it is an all-wheel drive car. So that means it's always all-wheel drive. It's not like, you know, I can't take it out of all-wheel drive and put it into like two-wheel drive or anything like that. I believe it's a 60-40 split, so 60% to the back and 40% to the front. I also believe that depending on the mode I'm using, it'll also differentiate of how much you know, power will go to the front versus the rear, and you know, things like that. As far as performance, I believe it's right around 750 horsepower, it's like right around that 700 mark, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. 700 of how much horsepower it makes, and then for torque, I believe it's, you know, probably close to 600 in torque itself. So again, we'll put them on the screen right here, the exact numbers, you know, what we can find and everything like that. But power-wise, I mean, the car goes. There's no questions about that. It moves, and that's one of my favorite things about this car. 0 to 60. Quote is 2.9 is what I've seen when you put it in Corsa mode and stuff like that and launch off the line. 2.9 seconds for 0 to 60. I've seen some other sources say 3.2, so anywhere between 2.9 to 3.2. It moves, it's fast. I have, again, a C8 Corvette, and that one does 2.8, 2.9 for 0 to 60, and I honestly can't tell the difference at all between the two for speed. I also feel like the URUS is way faster than the Vette. And again, that's the C8 Vette, you know, the rear engine and all that good stuff. This car moves like zero issues with like performance. There's never really a time where I'm like, oh fuck, I wish I had more power in this thing. Cool, maybe, you know, maybe if I wanted to go do like a downpipe and tune and go up to like 1,000 horsepower, what I've seen some people do. But for the most part, like, I'm very satisfied in that. And that's also where it kind of brings into my next part, which is like, okay, hey, do I go to the URUS S or the URUS Performante? And the only reason why I haven't made that switch yet is because I've talked to a few people who said with the S and the Performante, it's more built for like sportier trackier purposes and stuff like that. So the seats are a little harder, the suspension's a little harder and stuff. So it's just not as overall a comfortable ride, and it doesn't really give you as much versatility between comfortable and chill and then going into the Corsa mode itself. Now, as far as performance and then going more into like exhaust and stuff, that would probably be my only, like I said, not really a complaint, but just more like I wish there was a little bit more there. There's been plenty of times I'm in a parking lot driving through and people like ask me to rev it and stuff, just like anyone who sees a Lamborghini and stuff. And there's really nothing to rev with this car. You can put it in Corsa mode. It'll definitely be like louder and it'll sound okay, but there's really nothing that's like, wow, this thing sounds fucking amazing. Now, it's not necessarily like it lacks completely where like you have to throw an exhaust on it immediately. But just from factory, it does pretty good. But there's room there to be improved on that. And that's one thing that I do like about the Performante URUS and the URUS S, I believe, that does have a much better, exhaust note when it comes down to that part right there. So overall, we've kind of gone everything. We've gone from the interior, we're going through the outside. I've talked about some things I like, some things I dislike about this particular car. Kind of wrapping this up here of, hey, should you get an URUS at the end of the day? And to be honest, I think this is a phenomenal car. A year and a half later, I still cannot recommend enough people to buy this car. Easily one of my favorite vehicles. It gives you the supercar aspect. It gives you the speed aspect right there for those people who are still want the speed and have the fun and everything. It gives you the comfortability aspect. It hits on so many factors here. Just the simple fact that I can go rip it around the block, pull up at home, throw my dog some luggage in the car, go for a little trip, and I don't have to worry about swapping cars or anything like that. There's never been a car that can just give you so much value for your money. And obviously a lot of you guys will probably just be like, well, get the RSQ8, you'll probably give more value for your money because you're paying more for the URUS. But look, to be fair, like I said, if you can afford the URUS, definitely go for the Lamborghini part. That way you can even have a little bit of the pride and satisfaction that comes with owning a supercar. But you can't, I would say, go the URUS as the next, or the RSQ8 is the next one, because it's going to give you pretty damn close to what the URUS will give you. So thank y'all so much for watching this video. If y'all enjoyed this video, hit the like button and hit that subscribe button for new videos every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Time. Let me know if you guys would love for me to do a review on the C8 Corvette, because like I said, I do have the C8 as well. And so let me know what you guys, if you guys would love to see a review on that. Thank y'all for watching. I hope you have a good rest of y'all day. Peace out.